When you look at someone successful, somebody really successful in their field, be it in business, academics, fitness, or even something as simple as painting, they often seem like very different people, don't they? Different interests, come from different parts of the world, they grew up differently, learning different things, different skills. You think a successful scientist would be very different to a successful bodybuilder, but I found this isn't necessarily the case. Their interests and passions are different usually. Obviously, one's a bodybuilder, one's a scientist, two very different fields. But what they do tend to share is some very key traits. And one of these traits I'm going to discuss with you today, and it brings you farther in your field than most other people. For the best example of this one trait, I'm going to go to a man called Miyamoto Musashi. If you don't know who Miyamoto Musashi is, essentially he was a Ronin. So a Ronin is a samurai that doesn't have a master. So they tend to be wanderers. Um, they tend to be exiles. They don't really have any um, person above them leading them. They tend to sort of do their own thing. Sometimes they might have been mercenaries, but Musashi is renowned. He was renowned and he is renowned now, today, as the greatest swordsman that has ever lived. It's a pretty prestigious title. Greatest swordsman that's ever lived. Out of all the warriors in history, this man is, as he is usually put, number one under the sun. Why? What sets Miyamoto Musashi apart? Well, the one key trait, or well, not trait, the one key thing that people tend to say that set him apart was his unparalleled record in sword fights. So, from the age, I think he was 16, until he was well into his adulthood, he fought 60 duels to the death. He won every single one. From he was only a boy till he was an old man, 60 duels to the death, and he won every single one. He was so good, he killed a guy with a boat oar, like one that you row with. He killed a guy with a boat oar, and the other guy had a sword. In one swing, killed him instantly. It's not crazy. 60 duels to the death. It's a mad thing to think about. I think he died when he was about 60. So imagine having to, every year of your life, fight a guy and you could die. But he never did. He lived to old age, he passed away peacefully. Before he died, he wrote a book. This book was called The Book of Five Rings. And in it, he discusses the idea of never straying from the way. Now, what does that mean? Well, dedicating yourself with singular focus to one goal. Now, I'd say nowadays people can't really comprehend that. Being able to completely dedicate yourself to one goal, solely one goal, with no regard for anything else in your life. Now, you might say, well, of course, you have to dedicate time to something to actually get anywhere with it. And yes, you do. But he he took it one step further by completely disregarding other aspects of his life. If you want to be the best of the best, to reach the highest level, simply putting in some practice isn't enough. And Musashi knew this, because for all his accolades, he was a hermit. He had nothing. He was a wanderer without a family. He had no wife, no kids that I'm aware of. All he had were the two swords at his hips and his mind. That's it. He had no other distractions, no jobs, no bills, no friends or family to socialise with, no hobbies, no distractions. That's the key one. No distractions. All he had was swordsmanship. It was likely all he thought about from the minute he woke up until the minute he closed his eyes. All he would do is hone his craft. Every day, every night, all he would think about was swordsmanship. And it was this singular dedication at the expense of everything else that made him nothing short of perfect with a sword. And he often talked in his book about the distractions of the world. And I'd say now more than ever, 500 years later, he wrote this book 500 years ago, and I think now it's more relevant than any other time. We currently live in an age of distraction. You see it everywhere. TV, video games, drugs, gambling, porn, junk food, like the list goes on and on and on and on and on of all the things that are designed to distract us, that are designed to get their teeth into us and to not let go, to completely draw our attention away from other things so that we only focus on that. There's so much input into our brains that it seems almost impossible to focus yourself solely on one thing. Now, to be fair, Musashi did take this to the absolute extreme in a time when there was a lot less going on in the world. So we might not be able to get the same results as him or go to the lengths he went to, but what we can do is we can certainly follow his example of dedication at the cost of other things. We don't want our lives to become unhealthy and to neglect everything but our focus. But we can still cut many things out of our life in order to improve our focus on our goals while still maintaining a healthy balance. And I'm going to explain to you how to rewire your brain in a way that will give you more focus and allow you to not only dedicate more time to your goals, but to actually enjoy doing it as well. So for the second part of this video, the key to our system is a little thing called dopamine. Now, if you don't know what dopamine is, it's a little chemical in your brain that makes you feel good when you do certain things. It drives you forward. It makes you, it gives you the desire to do something, or to do certain things. It's that when you have something that you really enjoy doing and you feel that draw, that pull to go and do that thing, that's dopamine. That's dopamine doing that. It pulls you towards things that your mind, your body enjoys. That urge you get when you eat fast food, or that urge to go and eat fast food, that urge to play video games, and that rush you get, that's dopamine. Now, dopamine's normally a good thing. However, your system can become overloaded, and a lot of people nowadays, most people I'd say, have overloaded dopamine systems. And it can actually have a disastrous effect on your mind and body. Because when you get a massive spike in dopamine by doing something that's really stimulating, like, or doing too many stimulating activities back to back to back to back to back, your dopamine baseline. So dopamine has a baseline. So your baseline is essentially, it's your resting dopamine level. So whenever you're not doing anything, your dopamine sits at this level. And when you do stimulating activities, it goes up for a little while and then it comes back down again and it levels off. But when you do stimulating activities that are give you too much dopamine, what actually happens is after it goes up, up really high. Then it comes down, 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 and it actually goes below the baseline. And your baseline actually drops a little bit every time you do it. So what this means is when you do super stimulating activities like watching porn's the worst example, eating loads of junk food, playing loads of video games, doing drugs, binge drinking, like all these sort of things you'd associate with like debauchery or people just essentially taking it too far. All these things, they drop your baseline. And when your baseline drops, you actually become a bit depressed. The reason for that is your baseline is how you feel on a day-to-day basis normally when you're barely getting any dopamine. So the higher your baseline is, actually the happier you feel, because you don't your baseline is higher, so you don't actually need dopamine to feel good because your baseline is already high. But if your baseline is really, really low, that means you need dopamine to actually feel happy. But it doesn't give you that much of a raise, and it just comes back down and it just lowers your baseline. And every time it lowers and lowers and lowers and lowers and lowers, and eventually it just gets to a point where you don't even enjoy the activities anymore. You get like a 2 second rush off them, and then that's it. Afterwards, you feel worse than you did before. Now, how can you fix this? How can you fix a low baseline? Which I'd say most people have. I've had a low baseline of dopamine in my life from playing video games and eating loads of junk food, all that sort of stuff. My baseline was really, really low. But how did I fix it? Well, you have to actually detox your system. So what you have to do is find the quick and easy dopamine in your life. So whatever it may be, video games, junk food, whatever that, scrolling on reels, whatever it is. And you need to cut these things out. You need to go completely cold turkey. It's the only way, I know it seems drastic, but it's the only concrete way to actually do it. Because you can try and like reduce how much time you spend on it, and but it doesn't actually do anything because you're still getting the rush from it. And even if you're spending less time, chances are you're gonna keep falling. You're gonna spend more time than you're supposed to. You know, you could say, "Oh, I'll only spend 1 hour a day playing video games." You'll not. You'll spend more. Like, trust me, I've been there, done that, got the T-shirt. It doesn't work. You need to completely cut these things out, and you need to put as many barriers between yourself and the source. So if it's porn, get a porn blocker, you know, turn the notifications off on your phone so you're not picking it up constantly and scrolling. Delete the games off your computer or your console or whatever you have, and then take the frigging console or the computer, go put it in the attic or something, like up out of the way. Make it as difficult as possible to access these things so that when you get a rush to do them, it's more hassle than it's worth. Make it as hard as possible. And when you get that rush or that pull or that desire, instead of going and looking for that rush of dopamine, do the work that you're supposed to do. So study or go to the gym or, you know, record that video or phone that guy about this business site, whatever your plan or whatever your goal is that you're setting for yourself, right? Because this is applicable in all areas of life. You know, it doesn't just have to be like make businesses or whatever. It could be anything. in its place, in the place of all this dopamine, go and do the hard work that you need to do. Because by actually cutting the inputs and replacing them with the work you need to do, you're tricking your brain into associating dopamine with the work that you're doing. And admittedly, for the first few days, even a week or two, it's gonna be really hard. It's gonna be really, really hard to make the switch between the the cheap dopamine and the good dopamine. It's gonna be really difficult, but you need to keep to it, because if you do, eventually what will happen is your main source of dopamine will actually become, instead of your TV or your phone, it'll actually become your work. And then you'll get this drive, instead of going to scroll on reels, you'll get a drive to go and actually do the work you're supposed to do. You'll actually you'll actually be pulled. Your body will want to do it because that's where your dopamine comes from, and because it's not super stimulating, because it's like a slow release. There's slow release dopamine, and then there's quick release dopamine. Quick release would be the things I listed, so like scrolling or playing video games. Long release is stuff that you have to work at for a while before you actually get the reward out of it. And this actually, it trains your body to appreciate smaller things more, like little things like eating or sitting outside or stuff like that. Stuff that gives you very low amounts of dopamine. When your baseline is high, your body enjoys those activities more because you get a higher rise out of them, because your baseline is higher. So even though it's only a wee jump, it's still up higher in the graph. If you imagine like a line graph, and your baseline's through the middle when it's normal, and you get a little rise, and it goes up maybe about 3/4 of the way up, which isn't a lot, but because the baseline is halfway up, it actually brings it up quite a high level. Whereas if your baseline's low and you do them things, it's only going up, and it's not even up to the halfway bar. So you don't you don't actually enjoy it. Your body doesn't get anything out of it. Now, you'll prefer, eventually you'll get urges to go back to the old habits, but you have to just stick to the system, because then when your body enjoys the new habits more, you'll actually enjoy work, which is great. Why wouldn't you want to enjoy work? You'll actually enjoy sitting down and studying and practicing and working out in the gym. Your baseline will be higher, and you'll feel happier and more fulfilled. And how great's that? You can actually start to enjoy your work and actually go and do it, and dedicate time to it. And of course, there's going to be days when you don't feel like doing it. There's going to be days when you feel like slipping into the old habits and going back. But I want you to stay disciplined, and do the hard work when you don't want to, and visualize yourself in a few years when you've sat down and you've worked through what you've done. You've worked through your craft, and you've become very good at it. And I want you to imagine yourself as that person. When you get those urges, I want you to imagine yourself as that person. What what would that person, that version of yourself in a few years' time, when they got that urge, what would they do? Are they gonna fall back into the old habits, or have they just come too far to even think about those things anymore? That's in the past. Not even bother with them. They'd go and do the hard work, wouldn't they? They wouldn't give in. They'd go and actually do what they're supposed to do. And that's what you should do. You should live that version of yourself now, because it'll actually change you faster. You wouldn't give in to the temptation. So do the hard work. And remember the words of Musashi: never stray from the way.